You want pieces of 8? We got 2. Pirate 88.
Hey, Captain E here with you from Pirate 88. Back with you. We've got a very hot topic, franchising. Franchising is the big bad wolf, or is it not? We thought we'd call the experts in. We've got Mark Fernandez from the Business Development Alliance, or the BDA. We'd probably call them the go-to people for franchising in WA, and it's very, very kind of Mark to join us today to actually share his thoughts on franchising. Mark, if anyone was to blame, who is it? Who can we blame?
Well, thank you. Firstly, thank you for the opportunity to be here today and to share my stories. To answer your question, who is to blame? Yeah, tough one. Franchisors generally take the bulk of the responsibility, but the franchisees also need to share in that responsibility. And it's a very tough question to be answered, to be honest.
If you've just joined us and you're not totally all over what's actually happening with franchise in the news, you obviously haven't tuned into the news at all over the last few months, and particularly recently, RFG Retail Food Group, if that rings any bells, Gloria Jean's Coffees have had some major casualties. We're looking at something in the vicinity of 200 stores that are being closed. Aussie Farmers Direct was another one, and what were the figures there, Mark?
So Aussie Farmers Direct was about 100 franchisees.
Give or take.
Unfortunately.
What about the news about Caltex? What can you tell us about Caltex?
Yeah, well, Caltex, from my understanding, is an interesting one where the management's reviewed their position, looked at their growth strategies, and determined that franchising isn't their path moving forward. So they need to be commended, actually, for having an internal look and reviewing the numbers, the feasibility, and pushing that out. Is it good for the current group of franchisees? Probably not today, but we're talking about sustainability, and they're looking at the horizon and what was coming, and that's their role as a franchisor, if you like, or as a licensor, to make sure that they're on that cusp, that cutting edge.
Franchising is gaining a name that's scary. It seems like it's not a good place to get into. The government is saying that we need reform, we need better legislation. What's your take on that one?
Oh, look, I don't think we need any more legislation. We're one of the highest compliant franchise systems in the world in Australia, so that's not the key here. The key here is education. We need to educate franchisees more, we need to educate franchisors more on what their roles are. And franchisees or prospective franchisees looking to get into franchising have to do their own due diligence, have to make sure that they go to a franchise advisor, a business advisor, a lawyer and accountant to get the right advice.
Could some of these businesses have been saved?
Yeah, look, another really good question. Without going through each individual case, I'm sure there's a small percentage in there where businesses may not have transacted, and franchisees that are in the system maybe shouldn't be in the system, and maybe if they looked at their numbers a little bit closer, they could be. On the other side, it's the franchisor looking at their numbers and keeping abreast of the current economic and financial conditions. So, some systems need to do that a bit better, and some systems do that really well, and some systems don't even have that on the radar.
So a franchise system is designed to make it, would you say, easier, but in this case, franchises are falling over by the dozens. Where does that leave us?
I guess you have to look at everything in context. There's over 1,100 franchise systems that are estimated in Australia, producing around about $140 billion to the Australian economy, employing almost 600,000 Australians.
How important is it to get the right advice?
Oh, look, I don't know if it's important, it's probably critical. If you don't get the right advice, it's like anything. If you're going into any type of surgery, you've got to have your best surgeons around.
Is the overall franchise system or model, particularly when we look at Gloria Jean's and Aussie Farmers Direct, was it set up to fail from the beginning?
Yeah, good question. I can't answer that. I wasn't there at the beginning to do that. All I can say is that whoever did the modelling and whoever was responsible for the modelling back then, it probably worked. Was it updated? Was it reviewed in line with the current conditions 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 2 years ago? Not sure. But that's something we highly recommend, that the feasibility and the financial modelling. And when we talk about modelling, we're talking about the franchise fee, the marketing fee, and the ongoing royalty payment that the franchisee would pay. That needs to be reviewed every 3 to 5 years in our view.
Who's responsible for regulating that?
So there's no regulation on the modelling, and we don't want any regulation on the modelling. All I can suggest is that's part of the best practice that the franchisor needs to undertake, just like they should have a review process for updating their operations manuals, their training manuals, their branding, their logo, their staff personnel, their HR laws, all of those kind of things. Yeah, look, I think where we sit, our position on franchising is it's still very strong. There's a number of wonderful, successful brands out there that sneak under the radar, just go about their business, doing what they do, and do very well. Franchising, estimated 60% of all shopping centres are a franchise. There's a whole world out there of wonderful success stories with franchisees winning awards, franchise systems going overseas. We just had the International Franchise Conference in the US. A wonderful time there for the people there, and there's such euphoria around franchising that some of these stories just take away from that. And I certainly don't want to water down the fact that there's some systems there going through some hardship, but it's all not doom and gloom.
So success stories are out there. If there was one piece of advice, what would it be to somebody who's entering into a franchise or is already in a franchise?
Yeah, look, you have to surround yourself with outstanding people. You need the experts, and we talk about franchising as a different language. We talk about it in French, and so if you're getting into franchising, we encourage you to get all your French-speaking people lined up. Your lawyers, your accountants, your business advisors, bank managers, finance people, marketing, all of those people need to understand franchising really well and speak the language of French. And franchising is all about having the right expertise around you.
There we have it. That was Mark Fernandez from the Business Development Alliance. If you guys have any questions about franchising, then we would encourage you to get in touch. He certainly is the man with the knowledge, and not all doom and gloom. If you're in franchise as well and you are experiencing any issues, I would suggest before you throw your hands up and run away and hide in a hole, maybe just give them a call. That's the BDA, the Business Development Alliance. And of course, we are completely neutral. We are Pirate 88, and I am Captain E. Over and out.
Thank you for having me.
You want pieces of 8? We got 2. Pirate 88.